So excited! I can just...
Calm down. It's okay. No need to vomit.
iCarly is no stranger to having some interesting episodes, but there is one that stands out when I think about the show. So as we get ready for Paramount Plus's revival of iCarly, which we will be covering here on the channel once it comes out, I figured we would take a look more into iCarly. I've recently been rewatching the original show. I also just made an essay video on the series about its perfect timing from when it originally came out. Check out that video if you haven't, it was one of my favorites to put together. But in doing the rewatch and seeing these episodes again, I really wanted to talk about the time that the iCarly crew were essentially kidnapped by a crazed, obsessive fan, and why looking back on this episode was a bit dark. Quickly here at the start, I just want to say thank you for all of the support recently. I am truly appreciative of all of you, and all I ask is for you to drop a like on the video as it really helps the video out, and also that I hope you enjoy. So the episode that we're talking about today is I, Psycho, and right off the bat you can tell that this is going to be a rather intriguing episode for sure. Maybe it'll be about Neville. He's a little psycho, right? Nah, instead we're gonna focus on a brand new character so increasingly evil, it would eventually cause Neville to help out Sam in the Sam and Cat spin-off show. But here is, I guess, the supervillain origin of Nora. This episode spends the beginning half of its double-length runtime building up the awkwardness of Nora, a fan of iCarly who reaches out to them about no one attending her birthday party, and in hopes that since the iCarly crew is going to a convention called WebaCon, and that her house is 15 minutes away from the event, that they might have time to make a surprise visit to her. So, of course, thanks to Carly's good-spirited nature, drags the gang along to Nora's house, and which doing so shows that Nora and her 87-year-old clown are the only ones there. In a later two-part special, we would actually get to meet said parents who are just as, if not more, weirder than Nora. The pair doesn't fall far from the pear pad. Cut to a little bit later of awkward chit-chat and creepy dancing, the clown has an aneurysm and is taken away in a stretcher. This leaves Nora, a giant wreck, crying profusely and vomiting in the fireplace, as most do. To get her spirits up and give her a party with the people she invited to her school, Carly comes up with the plan to host an impromptu iCarly episode inside of Nora's house. Doing this brings a bunch of students Nora goes to school with to the party, giving her that popular moment she has dreamt of, albeit it's superficial. And here is where the episode, while starting off weird, starts turning a bit dark. I also can't stress this enough, dark doesn't necessarily mean scary. Darker themes don't have to relate to scaring you, but at the same time it also very much can, so please keep that in mind when I make these episodes, that they aren't always going to relate to something being scary as the main factor. Once all the party guests leave the house and it's just Nora and the iCarly crew, they for some reason can't find their luggage they brought, so they can leave and head to the convention. Nora says she hid it away downstairs so the guests wouldn't mess with it. They all follow her downstairs, where in which Nora's father has a soundproof recording booth for his job as a jingle maker for various brands. She ends up locking them inside the sound booth and holds them captive for the reasons of not wanting her to lose them as friends, and in some ways her newfound popularity. The back half of the episode now plays out like a non-accident based version of Misery, which is a Stephen King story about a crazed fan holding captive a famous author. Through this, Nora and her chicken Maurice sit outside the sound booth annoying the iCarly trio, driving them to near insanity. From music to Mad Libs, she constantly keeps an upbeat spirit as they slowly get angry and more aggressively mad towards her. They can't call or text anyone to help because she stole their phones and even reached out to all their relatives pretending to be them, saying that they are fine. She also reached out to WebaCon as Carly to say they were canceling their appearance, which is kind of scary that she knew how to do all this stuff, almost like maybe she's kidnapped someone famous before? Nah, I'm just looking too deep into things. For the entire weekend, they are trapped in this sound booth with getting one meal of Chinese food. And this is where Sam sharpens a duck bone and picks the lock after diverting Nora back upstairs for a moment. She picks the lock, but as they make a break for it, Nora comes back downstairs in a Richard Nixon mask while wielding an axe, scaring the gang back into the booth where she locks it once more. With no way out, Carly comes up with a plan to reach out to Gibby for help, without directly reaching out to him for help. This way, she can evade Nora's suspicions of them doing any kind of obvious activity that would result in them reaching out to someone. She asks if she can send Gibby a birthday video message, and within that message they leave another cryptic message that even Gibby could figure out, where every fourth word would be the real message about them being kidnapped by Nora. Gibby receives the message, and after figuring out everything and putting it together, hops on a train to Olympia with his younger brother Guppy and busts down Nora's front door. floor. This causes them to get into a full-on WWE SmackDown match throughout the house and down the stairs to the basement. And while Gibby is taking down Nora, Guppy snatches the key and lets out the crew. Nora is knocked out and the police are called on her as the trio, Gibby and Guppy, head back home safe and sound. This also leads Nora down an even crazier path for a return in a two-parter episode, I Still Psycho, as well as the iCarly and Victoria spin-off, Sam and Cat, like we mentioned earlier. She really gets quite the major villain arc. And it looks like her arc may not be over, as in the new iCarly trailer for Paramount Plus, we can clearly see Nora is back. And based on the fact that Spencer tases himself, it means that he was probably just as shocked to see her as we all are. So only time will tell what her role is to play going forward. While a lot of this is played for laughter, the crew were still held captive for a whole weekend with minimal food and no contact to the outside world by a crazed, awkward fan with no social cues. Take out the laugh track and the whole vibe changes. It's not a bad episode though by any means. I think the way they built up Nora throughout the episode leading to her kidnapping them was done quite well. She starts off as just this awkward girl, but when the people she is obsessed with are nice...
Your parents abandoned you. Nobody showed up to your party, and then your clown burped and had an aneurysm. How could you have had a worse birthday?
Or sometimes nice to her and help her amass some semblance of popularity with her peers, creating this connection in her brain that in order to keep this taste of the life she's wanted, she must keep them around as friends even if it's against their will. There are definite darker correlations to real-life influencers dealing with a fan or a supposed fan going too far as the online space has grown into what it is now. So seeing it in today's light rather than watching it when it first came out shines a new perspective on that. Yeah, this isn't far off from similar stories that have happened since. And one more time, yes, this episode was played for comedy, it still has its silly, ridiculous moments and means no intentional harm by it. But like how I spoke about this show in relation to the rise of content creators in the online space in my previous iCarly video, this shows once again how tapped in the show was to said space and what it would become, whether you feel a certain way about how this episode portrays it or not. So yeah, that was a darker episode of iCarly, and watching it again now, knowing just how weird some people on the internet can get, definitely shifts the tone even further into the dark category than it may have originally intended. I mean, it's still played for comedy of course, but there's just a little too much possible realism that keeps it from being just another sitcom episode. And like I said, I'll be covering the new iCarly revival later this month when it premieres on June 17th, so be on the lookout for that video discussing my thoughts on it. It's been really fun covering iCarly and rewatching the original show in preparation for the new show, so I hope you've enjoyed these videos as well. I truly appreciate the support you all have shown me, and I love hearing your thoughts on everything in the comments. Make sure to hit that like button for me, it truly helps out the video, and I thank you very much for it. Subscribe for more videos like this and much more as we journey up to 60,000 subscribers. I'll be back with another video later this week, but until then, later.